a nonprofit that does a number of things, and including working in CETA schools, which really came out of our fish donation program, which was designed not so much to provide fish to schools as to support the fishermen, but has that lovely benefit and has helped us build the markets for Maine fishermen. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I just wanted to welcome everybody first. And
Maine Research Institute. And before I get into sort of the nuts and bolts of this talk, which is, why seafood? We're sort of here to see the how side of things, of actually working with fillets of fish, but why do we want to do it? Why is it important? So I grew up in Searsmont to a fishing family. My dad's been a sea urchin diver for the past 35 years. This is him this year. Penobscot Bay was frozen over, and the season's December to March. So this is like iced over Penobscot Bay, and his head's just poking up. And it's not just my dad. Really, my whole family has been involved in the seafood industry in one way or the other. Aunties, uncles, brothers, cousins on both the East Coast and the West Coast. My uncle's fished out of Rockport. Here's my cousin for fishing for salmon in Bristol Bay, Alaska. My cousin does thirdman. My brother ling cod. He just got off a crab boat out in Oregon. So it makes sense that I ended up at the Gulf of Maine Research Institute, where we really want to develop and deliver collaborative solutions to global ocean challenges. And one such challenge that we face in the region is that while we have this abundance of well-managed, responsibly harvested seafood, it has a really hard time competing in the marketplace. And so if you think about, Americans in general, how much seafood do you think that we eat in this country is coming from other places? Take a guess.
80%.
Over 50? It's between 70 and 90% of the seafood that we eat in this country is imported. And that's such a shame. And even here in Maine, where you go up and down the coast and get fish and chips, or you get a fish sandwich, you just assume that that's coming from the Gulf of Maine, when in reality, it's probably not. That haddock is probably coming from Iceland or Norway. And so, what's the problem? We have an abundance of seafood. Why are we eating mostly stuff that's coming, that's imported? One of the problems is that we're actually leaving seafood in the water. So what this represents here, these percentages, are the percentage of the total quota that is harvested from the ocean. So the quota is the amount of seafood that fishermen are allowed to harvest that's set by why can't I say that word? You guys know what I mean. It's set by regulators and informed by science. So, they could harvest 100% of this and it'd still be a very well-managed, sustainable, healthy stock. So for a number of species that we have in the Gulf of Maine, we're not harvesting, half of them. And so we're not only leaving fish in the water, it's food in the water, and it's also income that goes back to our fishermen. And think about fishermen. There are so many businesses up and down the seafood supply chain that are supported and support fishermen. Think about the people on the docks with the ice, the fish processing houses, the trucking, the seafood businesses, grocery stores, everybody. And behind each one of those businesses are people. And when you talk about local fish, those people are your friends, they're your neighbors, they're your family. So this work really helps to support coastal communities, our marine economy, everything that is really important for our, we have such a rich history of fishing in this area. So we really see on the seafood team, my job is to encourage people to get more people to eat local seafood, because we want to build both demand and value for what we have here in the Gulf of Maine. So my job, I work with a number of businesses up and down the seafood supply chain to encourage them to have more local seafood. And back in 2020, working with Nancy, we got a farm to school grant where we wanted to work directly with K-12 schools because it's a captive audience, right? Like I go into a university and I'm like, hey, here, try some fish. And they're like, oh no, I don't like that. Like it's really twisting people's arms. You go into an elementary school, kids are like, oh, can I have some of that? That's really, you know. And it's arguably the most nutritious thing that you can put on a tray. It's full of vitamins and minerals. It's good for your brain, your bones, your heart. There was a recent study that just came out that it like has some altruistic properties. Kids who eat more fish have more resilience and are kinder, which is just wild. So these are some of the staggering impacts that eating, you know, the recommended amount of 2 servings of fish per week can have. And one of my favorite things that I've heard throughout the course of this work is that the dean at the Tufts School of Nutrition says that there are 3 things you can do to live a long and healthy life, and that's don't smoke, wear a seatbelt, and eat seafood. Despite all this, you know, how many people in this room eat seafood twice a week? Okay, so we're a little bit of a biased sample, but it's 1 in 10 Americans who are doing that. So despite this, you know, not many schools across the region are serving seafood, and when they are, it's often not local. So this is from the previous Farm to Sea to School census survey, where they actually pulled out seafood. The most recent one didn't specify seafood, it was lumped in with meat, but I dug into the data, and out of the 518 schools in New England that participated in the survey, only 19 of them had seafood in their top 5 purchases. So it's a huge missed opportunity, not only for our students' health and nutrition, but also for our fishermen, our working waterfronts, our coastal communities. And then to put like a cherry on top, it's also really climate friendly food. And especially with Gen Z, Gen Alpha kids, they are more and more interested in eating climate friendly foods. So we've been doing this work for 5 years now, and we've learned a lot. Often when we come into schools, you know, it's really the adults who we have to convince. We'll go into schools and they'll say, oh no, kids don't like fish, I don't want to do that. Oh no, I don't want to serve fish, it's difficult to prepare. Oh no, I don't want to serve fish, it's hard to procure. And there's a little bit of truth behind all of those, but really, you know, I think that as adults, we're much more rigid. We're adverse to change, and if you've been doing something for a long time, it's hard to want to do something new. But we've broken down some of these myths, and what we've seen across all age groups, across all states in New England, kids really like fish. And we do taste tests when we ask, like, did you like it? It was okay or not for me. No matter where we're doing this, it's between like 70 and 90% that are in that I like it. So we know that kids really do like fish when they're given an opportunity. And my favorite, one of my favorite stories, we were actually at a Portland elementary school and they were doing taste tests, and this kid comes in and he's like, oh no, I don't want fish. Fish isn't food, fish are friends, like la 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 la. It's like, okay honey, you don't have to have any, that's fine. And then a few minutes later he comes over kind of sheepishly and he's like, so all my friends are saying it's good, can I have some? We're like, yeah, of course, go for it. This is amazing, this is the best thing that I've ever had. So these stories, you know, happen all of the time. And so when we've done this work, we've seen that it's really important to get buy-in from food service professionals like yourselves. You're overworked, you're underpaid, you're undervalued, you literally could be making more money working at the gas station, but you care so deeply about the students who you serve. I grew up getting free lunch. I know how important it is to have a healthy meal in front of you. And, you know, I can be up here talking all day, like do this, serve more fish, but without you, you are the ones literally, I get goosebumps talking about, literally doing the work to get this in front of kids. So it's hugely impactful. Thank you all for being here. You guys are change makers helping to move this work forward. So what we've seen is, across the district, there will be one school where the food service staff, this is Annalise Johnson up in northern Vermont. She is like making fish melons, has everybody excited. The kids are into it. They have much higher meal participation numbers than a school on the other side of town where the staff, they don't like fish themselves. They think fish smells. And students look up to school lunch heroes. You make such an impact in their lives. So, how you serve, how you present really makes a difference. And so this is why we do trainings like this, is because it builds confidence and knowledge and buy-in. And the first time we did this training, we had, I don't think I have a picture of this slide, but we did like a pre and post survey, and it was like confidence and like preparing fish, that kids will actually like it, and the answers are really bell curvy. And then after the training, everything shifted to more confidence, and I did cartwheels literally in the parking lot. And then I just want to say, we today are working with fillets, which is a great option for schools, especially in Maine, when you can get it free from fishermen feeding Mainers. And it really can be a versatile food. You can do almost anything with it, and you'll get to see that in the recipes that we're preparing today. But I also want to recognize that not every school has the capacity in terms of like staffing, knowledge of staff, skills to work with a fillet of fish, or even the kitchen equipment, right? And so there are options for ready-to-bake items. So we're going to see some of that today with Maine Coast Fishermen's Association's fish cake. So you'll get to hear Susan talk about that. And there are also a couple other ready-to-bake products that are made with local fish that are available to schools. I know I'm over time here, so I'm just going to wrap it up. But another thing which you have in your folders is a link to a curriculum for middle school students, because what we see is that when students are connected to what they're learning in the classroom, to what they're encountering in the cafeteria, there's more buy-in and participation. So when students are learning about local seafood in the classroom, we see meal participation numbers for those seafood entrees go up. It's a really fun, if anybody's going to the Convergence next month, May Food Convergence, we'll have a session where you actually get to play the game that's in one of these curriculums. So again, I'm not gonna repeat myself because I've said it again, but fish is such a win-win-win. It's good for students' health, it's good for communities, our economy, it's good for the climate, and it's amazing. I think this is just resources, which again, you have in your packet. GMRI has a recipe index with over 50 recipes that most of them are CN credited. And then we have posters, which you have some samples in, but you can go and download more posters, the Sea to School guide, and all sorts of good information. I'm gonna hand it off to Sue.
I'll just give you a little overview from the MCFA perspective. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is at Skillin Elementary in South Portland. And this actually is the daughter of one of the fishermen that fishes out in the Gulf of Maine. And I didn't even know it. And I was talking to her afterwards, and she said, "Oh, my daughter goes there." And I said, "Is this her?" She said, "Oh my gosh, that's her best friend." And they were one of the first kids to come up and just say, "This is awesome." So this is taste testing the fish cakes, which I'll tell you more about, but that's just kind of a fun one. So just to give a little bit of background for people who might not know about it already, we have a fish donation program, Fishermen Feeding Mainers, that started almost 4 years ago. And it really started to support the markets for the fishermen, because during the pandemic, a lot of our seafood gets exported and some of it goes to restaurant markets, and neither of those were happening. So we were trying to keep the fishermen fishing, trying to keep their crew paid, trying to keep the market alive, all of the businesses that Sophie described. ice, bait, fuel, cutters, like everything depends on them bringing their catch in and being able to sell it. So we really were able to stabilize the market with a combination of federal and private funding and state funding to purchase the fish, have it processed into fillets, frozen, packaged, and then we partnered with Good Shepherd to have that delivered out to food pantries throughout the state. Good Shepherd is an incredible partner because they have trucks that go everywhere. They also have storage for that fish. The more challenging is getting the fish to schools because there is no integrated delivery system. There are different distributors, different pickup and drop-off procedures for every school. So currently, schools have to pick up the fish in Portland, unless you know Mike and he will basically drive it to your school for you. However, we also have another delivery option which is pretty new, and I know a few, like Portland is on the prospective list, and RSU 19 and one other here are also on a delivery list, and I will pull it up. Let's see, AOS 93, was there someone here from AOS 93? Maybe she's the one who isn't here yet. So Peak Season is a small distributor who is starting to do deliveries of the donated fish to schools. If there's enough delivery happening already for the purchased products, she doesn't charge anything to deliver the fish. If she's not delivering anything else to your school, there's a nominal delivery fee. It's an incredible option. We've been trying to figure this out for years, and she's the first person, the first distribution company to try it out and see how it works. So hopefully that will grow. We're hoping to get her new clients as a result. So talk to me if you're interested in that. I have kind of a going list of where she's trying to expand. But currently, these are all of the schools that are getting fish through Fisherman Feeding Mainers, and it's free. It's nice, like filleted fish. It's available to anyone. It's a variety of whitefish species. What we do is just send out an email when the fish is available. Here's what we've got. You sign up, and then you figure out when to go pick it up or relay with a colleague to pick it up. So if anyone has questions about that program, talk to me at any point today because I can make sure that you're on the email list. One of the things that came out of this, and in your packet you'll have a recipe page that looks like this. This one is in Spanish, yours is in English. We worked with Maine Sea Grant to develop some recipe cards for the recipients of those fillets so that there were really simple recipes that people could make. We had them translated into 7 different languages, so if you have any staff that does not speak English, you can download from our website any of the PDFs of the recipes in different languages. There are 4 recipes along with some information about how they're fished and the species. These are just kind of fun facts too to share with students or your staff, and you can use any species in any of these recipes. So even though this is for monkfish, you can use any whitefish species. And we'll talk about handling and how to make those species work in any of these recipes. So that's just a resource available. The copies there are scaled for school nutrition, so that it's easier for you to prepare in volume. This is just to show you, this is like off of my fun shirt, all of the fishes that are available. I mean, people think Maine, haddock, cod, lobster, scallops. I mean, there's a huge variety. There are 9 different species of flatfish. I mean, there's a huge variety of fish coming in, and they're underutilized, as Sophie said. So we're trying to figure out ways to use more of those local species, be creative, get them out into the world, introduce them to people, build those markets for the fishermen.
Do you have anything that has like a description of the meat of the fish? Like, oh, this is similar to this, it's flaky, or this is oily colored or whatever?
Absolutely. So GMRI has a resource like that, and that'll be in the See to School. Is that in the See to School Hub, or is that separate?
I think it's separate, but I can pop it in there, and also if I have the email list, I can email to everybody. But Nancy, I think like what we see is that most of the fish that's coming through FFM, it's really all flaky whitefish. Like ground fish is all flaky whitefish. You'll see here, like the monkfish is a little bit more firmer, and like the dab is definitely a softer. But that's what we're hoping to have Mike share and show, is that like these are the differences of the species, but in terms of like flavor, it's all pretty much the same.
And versatility.
Yes.
And that's something we try to convey to consumers all the time. Like, go ask what's local and what's fresh. It doesn't have to be what you were planning on buying. You can buy something else and swap that into a recipe, and it works great. So Sophie already showed you this, but I just love this. This is from Ellsworth. The kids just like destroyed the "do you like it" side, and they were so excited. And we see this again and again, so I won't belabor that. So this, Martha can speak to this. We have been trying to get fish to schools, and I talked about this a little bit through the distribution system. We're also getting it out for trainings too. So we were able, through peak season, to get this up to a seafood training down east, which was really exciting. So if there are other people in your area, or if you hear about that, we can help support those trainings by providing seafood for it, so that we can replicate this as many times as possible for other staff. I'm gonna skip that because that's long and complicated. So what came out of the fish donation program was a bit of a hesitancy to work with monkfish, and you'll see today it's a little bit meatier than other ground fish, and I think that makes it much more versatile, but it cooks a little bit differently. And so out of that, we worked with a soup company to develop a value-added product that's ready to serve, and that became our monkfish stew. That ended up going into a retail market about 3 years ago. It's been very successful on a small scale. A portion of proceeds go back into the Fishermen Feeding Mainers program. So for every box purchased, about $1 goes into that program. What we did from there was to kind of bring it back to the donation program and do some sampling in schools, and kids have loved it. And so we thought, this is something we've heard from nutrition staff, like we need something ready to serve. Let's try this. So we were actually the first product to qualify for the local food fund once they expanded to add value-added products. And Katie was a total rock star at like making the process work for us and the soup company in this iterative way until we like figured out this is what the formulation means, these are the credits it equals, all of that. So super grateful for that. And then, and we don't have monkfish stew to sample today, but anybody who wants it,
It is really good.
talk to me.
I've had it, so it's really good.
Awesome. I love it. I'm like still not tired of it, even though I have like bags of it in my freezer at home. You can order it through Native Maine. This has all of the portioning, case size, all of that. So if you want to order it for your school for sampling purposes or for serving, you can do it directly through Native Maine. And you will get the local food fund discount. So after we did that, we thought, well, what else can we do for schools that's easy to serve? So we started working on a fish cake, which you'll get to sample today, with a seafood company called Graffin Brothers in Rockport. And this is the other part of this project that I love so much, is working with small seafood companies and building their capacity. Like we've had grant funding for them to buy additional mixers and tilt skillets and freezers so that, and they can hire more people and they can really build their market as well. So this is made with a flatfish. It's either dab, flounder, or gray sole. We've kind of gone back and forth on markets. There are, as I said, I think 9 species of flatfish in Maine. And it's very simple: fish, potato, egg, carrot, rye, breadcrumbs. We've been doing sampling in schools, and we have these little like sampling flyers we put up, and we have kids give us their feedback and help us refine the recipe, which we've done over a period of time. And it's been so positive. We're really excited about it. It's not for sale yet, but if you want to sample in your schools, talk to me. Today we have samples of, it's going to be available as a mix So you can do with it whatever you want. You can make little croquettes and fry them up. You can put them in a curry sauce. You can make them like a meatball. You can fill a taco with them. You know, it's all ready to go. And it's also gonna come in little tots, which I don't have today, and a bigger cake. So different serving sizes. It's 50% fish, so 1 cake or 2 tots is going to fulfill the protein requirement. Everything's local. Again, it's gonna qualify for the local food fund. And we're trying to keep the price point lower than what it needs to be, so that if for whatever reason you run out of local food dollars or that program goes away, it will still be affordable for schools. It's been really hard to do that, but we think we can do it. These are just some fun things that you can do with a loose mix. This is like a hash brown bake with crispy hash browns and the fish mix. This is like an eggy cheese souffle. South Portland did this, and that's just our little taste test. And that's Sean Perry at South Portland. We were serving up the fish cakes as a fish parm sandwich, which was really fun, and a collaboration with the Maine Marinara Project. We're gonna be serving it on a good crust roll also, so like local, all qualified for the local food fund. Love doing stuff like that. And this whole thing just depends on like incredible partnerships with you, with the rest of your staff, with teachers, as Sophie mentioned. Like we see double participation in sampling or taking a meal that's seafood based when kids get to learn about it. Working with GMRI has been amazing. You know, getting to know some of the staff has just been incredible, and we've been able to like prepare dishes from different places around the world, including this is a coconut lime curry sauce that you're gonna get to try today that was developed by Khadija Ahmed, who's a chef who's done some multicultural recipe development in South Portland and is incredible. Like everything she makes is absolutely delicious. Okay. And that's all I have.
Bucket, often we forget the washing bucket. The green bucket is usually your cleaning, and then your sanitizer. Technically, there's 3 steps in food safety, right? Your green bucket is your first step, and then your rinse bucket, and then your sanitizer and what air draws. Just to touch on food safety. So we have 3 species: the pollock, the dabs, and the monkfish. I'm going to start with the monkfish because that's probably the most unusual fish, right? Has anyone worked with monkfish before? This fillet has the bone in the center, still backbone. They did pull some of the membrane off. Yes, you can discard or use it in like a fish cake, but generally it's discarded or into your fish stock. I like to use a small knife to take the 2 fillets out. And I will run, just like boning out a chicken, right? You're taking the breast off the chicken, you're just running it the tip down through the fillet, or if it's a chicken, the breast. Has everyone boned out a whole chicken before? Perfect. Yeah, it's a good practice to do. My whole chicken.
So does that not have spines that come out of that back piece? You know what I mean?
What's the question?
You know what? I don't know. I think of a fish and I think of the little spine pieces that come off of the...
Yeah, this one does not.
Okay.
The fisherman program, these will be all filleted for you. These will be boned out.
Yeah, totally not.
The only challenge, you won't be having to do this if you join the program. So it's relatively simple. So there's your backbone, tail. You can do a nice fish stock with that. The membrane needs to come out, which is right here. So if you get the fillet, you're probably gonna be buying the membrane too. And you want that out, but if you don't take it out, it's gonna curl like that, real tight, and it's really not that pleasant to chew. So again, when you take it off with the membrane, it'll be just kind of turn into a ball. Taking the membrane out, it should cook flat if you get the whole piece. I'm gonna save this because we have, can you open that door for me?
Sorry, I see.
Try not to do like you
You guys can absolutely go up closer. Like, monkfish is the hardest to handle, so I would just encourage you to get up in there and like watch him do it.
So yeah. If you work with a lot of beef, you get silver skin, it's the same idea. If you do like a fillet of a tenderloin, pull that silver skin off. Yep. And that's pretty much it. I tend to not use gloves when I work with the lighter fish because food safety, unless I'm serving sashimi, you don't need gloves, right, if you're cooking the food, right? So I'm gonna remove my gloves, and the reason for that is I'm not afraid of my hands smelling, right? I'm a farmer. I'll clean them well, but you know how you still have the scent staying with you. The reason I take my gloves off is I can really inspect the fillet. Will have any physical contaminants. If you're a food safety examinee, it's considered a physical contaminant, which is, I think bones are edible itself. But, so then you can, just inspect it, figure out if there's anything in there that you don't want to serve.
Mike, can you, what fish were you just
This is the
using?
dab, the flatfish. It's a little bit gray. I'll even take off some of the discoloration.
The old fish fillets that we used to get in the school lunch. The square ones? Yes, they had those hunks of like gray and black.
Yeah.
And all that. You're like, oh, I wonder what they're eating.
Right.
So that's what you just
Let's see, the next thought, sometimes these come with worms, right?
That's a neutral, right?
There was one on,
How about cod? Cod comes with worms on it. I've seen it in restaurants. They're moving.
so let's see if we can find any. I believe this orange is part of the roe of this fish. So when they fillet it, it could be in the stomach liver area before you discard it. It could be some of the liver too.
Why is it every fish or just cod that comes with fish?
With worms?
Well, sometimes you can't see them, right?
Yeah, does anybody want to speak on the worms in fish?
I wish you never spoke on it.
Yeah,
It's-
so
it's
the reason,
natural, yeah.
the reason we brought it up is because that some of the schools that are receiving this fish are like, see a worm and they're like, oh my god, I
Right.
never want to do this again. Because it's kind of like you hear worm and you get scared, right? These fish, they're called groundfish because they live on the ocean floor, where there are lots of other things that can, it's parasites are in all of us, just like they're in all of everything
It's
else.
a normal thing.
It's a total normal thing, and when you cook them off, it completely, like, there's no issue. Some people will be like, oh, it's just extra protein, when you swallow black fly. But it's not something to be scared of. It doesn't indicate that the fish has gone bad or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so as a chef, 40
Some of
years in
them,
kitchen,
it's
fine
called like
dining.
handling, because they
It's a
use
normal
a
thing.
candle
Just
to
remove,
hold the
put it in
fillet
a
over
discard
to
area.
see, and like restaurants will like.
But I
like,
already
go
went
and
through
pull them
these. There was
out,
one
but
worm in
in
this
this
batch.
you just stick it here.
Here I've got a bone, so that's why I want to take my gloves off. Yeah, I just, I don't want to disappoint a kiddo that is brand new to fish.
I'll also say from like the fish donation perspective, we work with processors to do this for that program. I'm very happy to hear feedback about, what you're
Condition of the
seeing.
fillet, sure,
And if there are
yeah.
things that they can do that are easy enough and cost effective enough on their end to make it easier for you, just tell us. Like, we don't know unless you tell us.
I think the
I have some feedback.
Yeah, I double check it.
If possible, and I know it's hard, and even when I buy my salmon fillet at the market, please don't fold the fish. You know, when they do this,
I know.
you
It
know,
breaks the-
creates a lot of imperfection.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know.
And what fillet is this one?
This one is the pollock. Thank you. You see I call these the nape. I'm not sure if you use another term for these, Sophie.
Like the neck, almost like
It's
think of
right
it
by
as
the
like
belly,
this part.
yep.
Yeah.
Belly and the gill would be right up here, but I removed that as scrap. And that's kind of in my fumet as well, or my fish stock. The tails, after they've been frozen, they dehydrate very quickly. So a stew or a soup would be best for that, I believe. So when Vicki and I work with a scale, use one in one of these drawers, right beside me, I think, there's someone.
Scale.
Vicki has trained me not to touch everything. It's kind of like the swing set. You touch all the doorknobs and you're dirty mitts.
That's what I tell him, stand still.
We used to touch everything in the kitchen.
I'll get it. I'm like, no, don't anything.
Is there something we can put on top of the scale, a piece of plastic or that?
Yeah.
So this is usable part, but I'm not sure if I want to use it unless I'm going to do like a taco. If I'm doing tacos, that'd be a nice single strip or a fish stick. This fillet felt good as far as any kind of physical issues. I like to cut.
One other trick, if you've got a thinner part of the fillet, or like one fillet that's a lot thicker than the other, is you can, I know you said don't fold the fish, but if you have a thin
When I'm buying
end, you can tuck it underneath when you
Good
bake it, so that you
great
even
idea.
out the thickness.
Yeah, and I think what you're referring to is you could do that for your, assuming that's your portion.
Yeah,
You get
Or
a
just like-
consistent cook.
the end underneath to match the thickness of the other part of the fillet.
And another way we prevent that at our district is we'll cut on the bias so we get sort of that thickness that Susie's referring to.
Do you help for shrinkage?
Pardon?
When it
3.1
shrinks?
ounces. It's done this
When
once
it's-
or twice before.
Ask her to share that, so to speak. So, yeah, of course now I'll roll it. So we do that 1,000 times. We've done.
Geez, my high school would be starving.
How many places have we done together in an hour? 400?
Something like that. And that's, you know, when I know he's coming over to my school to do it, I separate my benches and I give him the trash can, I give him his cutting board area, and then I've got a bin filled with oil to dip. I have a bin filled with the breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese, the flavors that we're gonna use, and then my line of sheet cans. When my coworker comes in, Mike will cut on wet hand for oil, dry hand for crumbs, and then I lay it on the sheet can. We'll get 35 servings on a sheet can. My coworker Ashley will grab them, fun bag them, tape it, mark on how many servings per sheet can, the date, and what flavor of fish that is, if it's haddock, holocaust, whatever we've done. And then she just loads it up in the speed rack in the freezer. So it's a pretty good system, and it's, we are fast. Yep, we are fast. We've been working together, like Mike said, 4 or 5 years
First grade,
doing this. Yeah, first grade, second grade, second grade. But, he does the cutting. I have cut, but I have to weigh like every single one of them and watch my sizes, and then, I can do the breading quicker, so.
We're shooting for 3 ounce,
Yeah.
30% cook weight loss, so you get 2 ounce. And we may be error for those that credit. but I think we're doing pretty good.
What's your shrinking question? So if you cut a split 30, the 3 ounce portion
Can you repeat the question a little louder, or maybe so everybody can
Sure.
hear the question?
What would I do if my skills were errored, if I wasn't measuring well, my pieces were short? You could take a couple pieces, you could turn it into nuggets, you could make your soup, your stew, follow a recipe so they're, in theory, you're labeling out the minimum requirement if you follow a accredited recipe.
So you would take that flat end and cut it, stick it underneath?
This, or?
Well, what they're.
Well, this, you
Yeah,
mean?
try to
Yeah.
make it like.
Yeah, like, let's look at that, for example. So I'm thinking, I'm gonna go in there somewhere. Okay, but then again, there's your glove problem. So, and if you fillets they hide, especially in the flatfish.
And I just want to point out some schools were like, oh my God, there are bones and like pulling each one out, which is really labor intensive. But what you just saw Mike do was just like take his knife and quickly cut it out.
Yeah, if you can pull it, that's great. Salmon is
At
different
home.
than bones. So for portioning purposes, to think deeper about Monty's thought, most species will be packed in similar size. They seem to school similar. Is that accurate? I've been
It's the
on
lot
boats.
size, so when they sell them at auction, they sell them by
That's how
size
it's
lot.
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even being on boats, I've been on a monkfish boat, flatfish, groundfish boat, 3-day trips. And they seem to school similar size. It's really interesting. And then we sort at that stage too. The whole fish will sort them based on size. Absolutely by species. This was 7.7 ounces. So I really can only get 2 portions out of it. So that's easy. I'll even go at the bias. I just like that presentation. In it, I don't know, maybe it's the French chefs that taught me. I've always cut on bias with filet. Sometimes you can't, but when you crust it or sauce it, it just gives it another character, if you will, on the tray. So these, you can go flat or you can tuck. And if you tuck, like when we tuck, like 35 or 36 to a tray, or however we're doing it that day, we'll try to make them the same shape. So when you bake them off, they're all consistent. And the center ones will cook slower, so if they're the biggest fillet, if they're a little heavy on those, you might want to put them to the outer side of the tray. So you don't overcook with the other guys.
Nancy, did that answer your question about like if you're off a little bit?
Well, pretty much, but I would definitely not cut a piece the exact amount. So if I cut it like 2 and then I'm gonna go, I'll just take this little sliver here and put it underneath my 2 ounces. That's what I was
You
thinking.
can
Right,
do that. Sure. Yeah.
And
A piece and a half. It's a 4 ounce.
this is for recipes where you are like cutting to like the size, right? There are some recipes that are on that list where really they were Chef Sam Cohen's Gazbara wanted to make it as easy as possible, so she just like put the fish in the pan, bake it off, and then it's just like the portion is scooping it because it's all mixed together. So there's like a Cambodian like fish stir fry in there that does it like that, and then a couple others. So and you'll see with some of the recipes that we'll be making.
So, what I brought, and I described this already a little bit, and I can put the flyer out just so you can see the ingredients. These are the 4-ounce cakes, and they do have breading on them. Right now, so these are made with dab flounder, and actually, you know what? These are made with gray sole. This batch is with gray sole. So these do have a breadcrumb on them. We're actually about to sample using a Maine Greens crumb, and it's not a waste product, but a product of the leftover ends of their sourdough. So it's local and it's try in their other recipes. So he uses his bread ends to make the crumb. But we're trying to swap it in for something whole grain, which then is awesome because you get that from it too. One of the things we decided early on was to offer this in different formats. So the mix has no gluten in it. It has no breadcrumb. So this is just all the stuff. It's the potatoes, it's the fish, it's the carrots, it's the spices. And it is, and you'll get to taste this, but it's very lightly